Hello everyone, welcome to Classroom 2.0 Live for Saturday, January 9th, the first session of 2016. Today is our 7th anniversary celebration show as well as an open mic on professional development. Your show hosts are Peggy George, I'm Lori Moffett, and Tammy Moore. Thanks to Tammy for doing the closed captioning for us. And our special guest today is every single person in the room. So all of you are our special guests. So here's our first poll question. What is your role in education? A, classroom teacher K-12. Type the grade level in chat. B, librarian. C, technology specialist or coordinator. D, college or university instructor. Or E, other. And if you do choose E, please type in the chat. And even on a mobile device, you ought to be able to vote. And I will then publish those to the whiteboard. And we have mostly K-12 classroom teachers. Our next biggest, which is 26%, our next biggest group is 21% for other. Our second question, how many Classroom 2.0 Live shows have you attended? A, 1 to 3 shows. B, 4 to 6 shows. C, 7 to 10 shows. D, more than 10 shows. Or E, this is my first show. And I will publish those results too. And most of the room, 60% said D, more than 10 shows. Our third question, how many Classroom 2.0 shows have you watched as video recordings? A, 1 to 3 shows. B, 4 to 6 shows. C, 7 to 10 shows. D, more than 10 shows. Or E, haven't watched a recording yet. Again, once most everybody has voted, I will publish these. We had 30% vote D, more than 10 shows for recordings, and two groups, 1 to 3 and 4 to 6, each 17%. Here's the link for our Livebinder for today. The tabs default across the top, but you can choose to have the tabs show up on the left side of the binder or the right. There's also a table of contents button near the top, and I want to thank Patty Ruthing for doing a Blackboard Collaborate introduction for us. At the very bottom of each month's binder is a resources tab for Blackboard 2 or Classroom 2.0 Live resources. All the recordings are posted on the Archives and Resources page. We always like to know where in the world you're logging in from. If you use that pointer tool and make sure you click on with the left mouse button, otherwise only you see where your pointer is. I'm located in central Pennsylvania. I know Peggy logs in from Phoenix, Arizona. Tammy logs in from Southwest Arkansas. Paula's logging in from New Orleans, Louisiana. Usually we have an international audience, and we do as well today. I see a starburst there in Europe. You can also type in chat where you're logging in from. I think now I'm turning the show over to Peggy George, who's going to introduce our first topic for today.
Well, hello to all of you. This is such an exciting day for us. So many of you have been with us from the very beginning, which was back in 2009, but many of you are new too, so we're just grateful for all of you and for the way you come each week to share your questions and share your ideas and your resources and help all of us learn together. So as is our tradition, each year we like to celebrate all of the presenters that have given so freely of their time to bring us these awesome presentations. And one of the ways I do that is to create a video that takes a little trip down memory lane for the entire year. And so I'm going to play a video right now. And we'll put the link in the chat also in case you can't see this. And I hope that you'll be able to watch it and enjoy it along with us. Well, that is our trip down memory lane for 2015, and I can't thank our presenters enough for all of the amazing content they provided and all of the resources that we can continue to use in the Livebinders each week. And I want to say welcome to Steve Hargadon. I am so glad that he is here with us today. We're going to just do a few celebratory things first, and then we're going to jump right into our open mic on the topic of professional development. This Symbaloo web mix is awesome. It was created by Patty Ruffing, and it is the perfect way to go back and enjoy all of the shows from a particular year, and this is for all of 2015. This Symbaloo is in the Livebinder today, and all you need to do is click on one of those shows and it will take you immediately to the archives where you can watch the recording, check out the Livebinder. All of the things related to that show are right there. And then she's included the link for subscribing on iTunes U and also to our YouTube playlist. And you're welcome to subscribe to both of those. So huge thanks to you, Patty, for creating that for us. She also created this wonderful Wordle for us. And I'm sure at a quick glance, you're going to recognize all of these names of the people we just saw in the video. And it's so much fun to have a Wordle. I have Wordles from almost every year since the beginning, and I actually have had coffee mugs made out of them because they're such great memories for me. So that's something you might even think about doing. I also want to say a huge thank you to our founding co-hosts. When we started back in 2009, Kim Case, Lorna Constantini, and I were the original co-hosts. And we spent many years together collaborating on Skype and in Google Docs and everywhere imaginable, helping us brainstorm ideas and manage all of the shows. So I am so grateful to both Kim and Lorna for all they contributed to the show. And our current co-hosts are Lori Moffat, Tammy Moore, and myself. And they have been faithful helpers and co-hosts every single week. And I so appreciate that Tammy is always here to do the closed captioning for us, because that's a special bonus that lots of shows don't have, and we really appreciate that. And Lori always is here, keeping us on track, recording the shows, and doing all of our introductions and Q&A times. So thank you, Lori and Tammy, for all that you do for us. I also have a huge thank you to say for something that we started in the past maybe year and a half, and this is a Classroom 2.0 Live Advisory Team. And quite a few people stepped up and said they would be willing to share their time to come together with me to brainstorm once a month to plan our shows, contact possible presenters, and just be all-around supporters. And I have listed their names here, and we are so appreciative for Patty Ruffing, Maureen Domanis, Paula Naugle, Melissa Getz, Wes Fryer, Carolyn Stanley, Tony Plord, and Tammy Pogue. So thank you for all that you do for us. You are the reason that these shows are so full of great content and people. And I want to invite all of you to consider if you would be interested in being on the advisory team. We'd love to have you join us. And just indicate your interest in the chat, and I'll catch that later and send you an email and let you know when we meet and how it works. We would love to have a few more voices because we know that only enriches our show. Now, we're going to move on to our newbie question. As you know, we always do a newbie question. We've done this from the very beginning of the show. And we do this because we like to ask a question that maybe will help bridge the gap a little bit for people that maybe are new and haven't been with us before. And I thought the perfect newbie question for today was to do just a few words about how Classroom 2.0 Live got started and how it's changed over the years. And to actually start that question, this is a surprise for him, but Steve, since we started because of your Classroom 2.0 Ning, I'd love to have you jump on the mic and say how you started that Ning and where it's gone since the beginning. Could you do that?
You're talking ancient history.
I know I am.
In the web world, it is ancient history. Okay, so the quick answer is that I was doing an interview series on open source software in education. And some of you will remember the open source labs that the open source pavilion we did at ISTE, where we bring 50 computers, old computers, and convert them to Linux thin client. And as part of that interview series, I interviewed Mark Andreessen. And the funny part of that story is I interviewed Mark, and I had forgotten to turn on the recorder. And I had to call Mark back, and he graciously agreed to let me interview him for another hour, which he then recorded. Anyway, I got to know Mark a little bit, and I interviewed his business partner at the time, Gina Bianchini, and they had just created an open source project called Ning, and it was a platform for web development. It wasn't yet the build your own social networking platform, but it was open source, and it was intriguing. And then when they shifted gears to building your own social network, I can remember thinking, this is brilliant. So here's a guy who's not been a teacher, the day out, of course, but doing an interview series on open source in education, and I just saw this vision of the power and the importance of social networking to teachers. And I actually called Gina Bianchini and said, I think you need to hire me. And so for the next 18 months, I can remember going to conference after conference and just helping people to understand that social networking at the time, which was perceived as MySpace and very negatively perceived, actually held this tremendous potential for connecting educators and ultimately students. I think that's borne fruit. I don't think it has borne fruit only through Classroom 2.0, of course, which may be sort of a biased story now. But in large measure, I think we have really seen tremendous connecting capabilities through social media. So that's the short answer.
That is just perfect. That was just so great to go back and remember some of those things that you were talking about. What I can add to that is it was somewhere along the way, and for us it was right around the end of 2008 and the beginning of 2009. Steve had been doing some sort of Skype open mic conversations with anyone who wanted to join him. And I said, oh, I want to do that. And I was coming regularly, and I said, it would be so much help if we could have a topic to think about so that we could come prepared to share something. And Steve said, oh, what a great idea. Why don't you do that? And from there, Classroom 2.0 Live was born. We started our first show, and we have continued ever since. So we're grateful that Steve gave us that challenge and has given us this opportunity and has mentored us all along the way. And I did want to mention just this one thing, actually there are two things here. This is what the Classroom 2.0 NAME community looks like that Steve created way back then. And this was one of the early forum posts right about the time that we were getting started. And I'll bet many of you remember EduBloggerCon. That name has changed over the years. It's now HackEd. But so many of us met for the first time face-to-face at EduBloggerCon in the Classroom 2.0 meetup. And that was such a thrill to actually get to meet up with people we'd been communicating with online. So that was our beginning, and I just had to share this because our very first show, we asked people to submit and share their top 10 things that they, tools that they couldn't live without. And since I didn't have to get permission to share this, I'm sharing mine. And it was so much fun to look at this. And all of the rest of them are on that link, and they're in the Livebinder today. So you can go back and take that trip down memory lane with me. But so many of those tools are gone now. And yet, many of them I'm still using today. I couldn't live without Digo. I use Wiki Spaces. Most of those photo apps are gone, although VoiceThread is still here. Sketch is changing. Lots of iPhone apps and so many more than what we had at that time. TweetDeck is something I still use. How about you? Are any of these ringing a bell for you? And remember when we used to always use RSS feed readers? And now we hardly ever do anymore because we have so many other ways to get notifications. It is just so interesting to see how far we've come. This is really not a long time. 7 years is not long at all in the scheme of things. So this is all I wanted to share as just a little celebratory piece in this show to once again say thank you to all of you, our participants who come so faithfully and our presenters who give their time. And I'm going to turn the mic over to Paula Naugle now, who has been one of our very faithful supporters from the very beginning. And she's going to facilitate our open mic conversation. So take it away, Paula.
Thank you, Peggy. Thank you, Steve, and everyone else who's been a part of Classroom 2.0 Live. Yeah, I've pretty much been here since the beginning. I don't know how I stumbled upon it. I guess it was through the Ning. But as I put in the chat, I remember going to the first webinar and being so scared to touch anything because I was afraid I'd mess something up. So I think I said hi at the beginning and bye at the end and just sat there and kind of listened. But anyhow, today, for the rest of our session today, we are going to have an open mic conversation where we're going to chat about professional development. The things that work, what doesn't work, you know, what is your best way to get your PD, what's important to you, and maybe some of us can brainstorm and we'll figure out better ways to get what we need. So let's move on. I'm going to run it somewhat like a Twitter chat. I'll post a question, and what you will do is if you would like to respond to the question, of course you can certainly do it in chat, but this is open mic, people, so we want you to grab the mic. So what you will need to do is go over here to the little hand in the participants window, click on it, and that will let me know who raised their hand first, and then I will say, you know, call your name and you'll be ready to go. And then once you have answered or had your little say, it will be best for you to remember you have to click on the talk button to talk, and then you have to click on it to turn it off. And I tend to forget that all the time. So please, you know, somebody put in the chat, turn it on, turn it off, whatever. Okay, we'll help each other out. So let's move on to our first question. Okay, the slide's not, there we go. All right, I thought the first thing that would be interesting to talk about is how much PD are you required to do each year? I know that there are recertification issues that need to be addressed, and they are different from district to district, state to state, country to country, etc. So I would be curious to see what is required of you for professional development. And you can talk about things like, is it offered in your district? Do you have to go out and find your own, etc.? So who's going to be our brave soul and raise their hand first? And I'm counting on all of you to do that. So I'm waiting for you to raise your hand so that you can take the mic. Go. All right. Thank you. All right, Nikki, I'm turning it over to you because I have a number 1 by your hand. So, Nikki, the mic is yours.
Okay. I also put it in the chat, but in Alabama, I believe that we have to get 50 hours within a 5-year period because our certification, our teaching, I can't talk this morning, our teaching certification requires us to have that much to then get our certification re-upped for the next 5 years. But I usually get in at least 500 or more hours, and that's probably not even counting everything I do on Twitter, which is my number 1 PD source.
Nikki. All right, Patty, you're up next.
Hi, I'm in Pennsylvania, and in Pennsylvania we have something called Act 48 hours that we have to accumulate, and there are a lot more than Alabama. We have to do 180 hours in 5 years, and so we went like from 2005 to 10 and 10 to 15, but there was kind of an uproar in Pennsylvania about it, and I don't know if it came from the districts or what, but they actually had a moratorium that went into place in 2015 that gave like an extra 2 years. So I think maybe some of the public school districts were saying it was costing them money to pay for the teachers' professional development, because this wasn't really so much in-house. This was things that you had to kind of get on your own. Only a little bit of in-house counted. So now our next certification expires in 2017, but thanks to Classroom 2.0 and a lot of other opportunities, I have way over 500 too, so I'm in good shape, but some people are not.
Okay, Patty, it's funny, that's where I was educated, was in Pennsylvania, and I know the requirements are very tough. All right, I don't see any other hands on that particular question. Also, if you click on the hand after you've spoken, your hand will go down so that you can be ready for the next one. All right, I see, well, Maureen put her hand up and then down. Okay, so what I'm hearing is that there are professional development requirements for most people at some point in their career. And of course, a lot of us just like to do it on our own. Oh, Kim, yay! Let's hear from Arizona. Go ahead, Kim.
Actually, I have a question, Paula. Many districts require teachers to take a certain number of hours, and sadly, I wish we did in the Madison School District. We may be changing that. I'd be interested to hear from other states, districts, as to if there are any requirements from their school, their district as well. And I'll take my responses offline, as I say on the Diane Rehm Show.
Go ahead while other people are waiting to raise their hand. In Louisiana, for the first 3 years, you're on, I guess it's called a temporary certification. And during those 3 years, you have to complete 20 hours per year, I believe is the requirement at this point in time. So that's Louisiana chiming in. Billy, talk to us about New Jersey.
And
can you hear me?
We hear you. We hear you.
In New Jersey, we have a lot of EdCamps and other opportunities that go on. There has to be an EdCamp almost every other month. Actually, today is EdCamp New York City, so people in Northern Jersey have that opportunity. I know there's EdCamp Central Jersey, EdCamp South Jersey, EdCamp Actis, all coming up in the spring. I run EdCamp New Jersey, which Paula got to come up with last year, and it was amazing. We had 400 people last year at our EdCamp, and what's great about the EdCamps is it's free, and you get to learn what you want, and if you want to learn more than once, it's the rule of 2 feet where you can go and learn multiple times. Also in the summer, and I can't think of his name right now, who runs a conference down in Stockton. It's similar to an EdCamp, but a little bit different. And Paula, help me out. It's your other son on Twitter. Kyle. Kyle runs his conference. It's similar to, it's called Teach Me, and it's run similar to an EdCamp, but a little bit different because there's all the sessions are 20 minutes long, then the people vote on the sessions to see which sessions they like. As far as professional development requirements in New Jersey, you need a certain number every year, but they keep changing it, and they've just changed it recently. It used to be 20 hours a year. I don't know what it is anymore, so I can't answer that question. But I mean, New Jersey always has different things going on all the time.
Thank you, Billy. We're going to ask you to come back on again because we are going to want some more input about EdCamps, but that's coming up in another question. So let's move on to our second question. Okay, how do you choose which PD you will participate in? Do you get to go to conferences, either face-to-face or virtual? Do you attend webinars? Do you go to EdCamps? Or can you just do videos? Do you attend podcasts? Or what do you do? Are you involved in book studies? You know, what are the different ways that you get your professional development done, whether you're required to or not? All right, thank you, Kim. Take the mic.
Okay, all of the above, none of the, I absolutely love just-in-time learning. I love EdCamps. I started to attend them, love them because the ownership is on me. Podcasts, I'm not as big on blog posts, but webinars. Vicki Davis was doing a workshop here in Phoenix at Grand Canyon University, and she talked about how every day she loads up her phone and uses that on her way to work to listen to. And I do that at least once a week, and I try to listen to them not once but twice, and then I share them with the teachers I work with. So I know I'm in charge of my own learning and developing my PLN, and that has become really important to me. I have to say it started with Peggy George, who got me to do this, so I got to meet wonderful people like Paula Naugle and all these other great people when I attend conferences, but it doesn't have to be face-to-face. I have developed more knowledge from people I have never met and will probably never meet. So that's how I am doing it, as my just-in-time learning, but not to take away from face-to-face. I love ISTE, I love EdCamps. So there.
I find that with cutbacks in funding around the country, that being able to send teachers to conferences is probably not happening as much as it has in the past. But we also have Lisa Smecki in the room, and I would love for her to take the mic and talk about what they offer at her wonderful website.
Oh, thank you. It's really wonderful to be here, and I really enjoyed hearing Steve talk about the early days with Classroom 2.0 because it brought back so many memories of discovering the power of social networking, which is really what we're doing here today as well, but also how it was perceived so negatively to begin with, which is kind of hard to imagine. Because I think with what you're talking about, Paula, just most recently what you touched on, I think from the industry side, a lot of people are seeing just what you're saying. The teachers aren't attending conferences as much as they may have in the past.
And we know that teachers love to connect live as much as possible, and this is a virtual way to try to make that happen. So we started doing that with EdWeb about 5 years ago. We created a social network dedicated to education, but needed to really figure out how to use that network. And what we found was hosting webinars within professional learning communities gave people an opportunity to attend live as much as possible, which is their first choice. But then in the same way that you have everything archived in your Livebinders, we have everything on the website. And so it's the convenience of having that available all the time, and all of that is free. I was really interested to hear about some of the PD requirements, because we're going to take the certificates that teachers have earned and post them on their web pages on EdWeb so they can download them and turn them in. And I think one of the things we really want to know more about this year is how can we help teachers get credit for the participation in informal professional learning like this. I think it varies so much state to state and within state. So I feel like we need an advisory committee to help us help educators get credit for doing these kinds of things. So those are just a few things that we see from our perspective. I don't think there's any one place for everybody, and if we can be in all places at all times, that would be great, but the proliferation of opportunities online is just a wonderful thing for teachers, and we get so many thanks as you do for making these kinds of opportunities available.
All right, Nikki, you have the mic.
Okay, I had to remember to turn on the talk button. Of course, I agree with Kim, all of these above, but one of the questions I get asked all the time is how can you get credit for attending a Twitter chat or something like that? Because honestly, that's my best source and has been my best source for professional learning, is connecting with so many other amazing educators on Twitter. And I had the great opportunity to work at Hoover High School in Hoover, Alabama with the wonderful Jennifer Hogan and Holly Sutherland, who were my assistant principals. And they are the moderators of AL Ed Chat, which is Alabama Ed Chat. And then once a quarter they do US Ed Chat as well, which brings together all the state chats across our country for one collaborative chat once a quarter. And what they told me is, well, first off, they gave anyone who participated in the chats each Monday night PD credit. And I said, well, how can I do that once I left that district? I was like, how can I get credit at my new school for doing Twitter chats? And they said that it's up to each individual school district whether they're going to allow that or not. And so you had to kind of talk to whoever your PD director for the district is. But I thought it was fabulous that they did allow you to get actual PD credit for participating in Twitter chats.
It's awesome. And I would say that probably one of the ways that that could happen is now that you can use something like Storyfy or Participate Learning to archive the chat, you can see whether the person was in attendance, if they put a tweet in every now and then, so that there is an accountability piece there too. I'm going to call on my friend Billy to tell us, Billy, how in the world do you get 400 educators to give up a Saturday to go to EdCamp? And what is it that they're buzzing about? What are the kinds of success stories that you've had with that?
It's because they heard you were going to be there, Paula. That's the only reason they all came. No, in all honesty, it was last year was our 3rd annual EdCamp, and it's just people have gotten out the word. In New Jersey, we happen to be, Jersey is one of the most densely populated areas, especially in North Jersey. And people just wanted to go and connect. We had people from all over the place. And they just heard about it. We're hosted in central New Jersey, so it's close to Pennsylvania. It's close to New York. close to Delaware. So we had people from Pennsylvania, Delaware, New York, and New Jersey who came, and they just heard it's a great day to learn and share. And there's nothing, I don't really know anything special. I mean, this year we had about 300 people, and the only way we advertised was really Twitter, and barely advertised this year. It's word of mouth. People hear it's a good day of learning, and there's a lot of great things going on in the state of New Jersey. So people like to share, people like to connect, people like to learn from one another. I know I talk to other people in other states, and they always ask that question, like, how do we get so many people? And we honestly don't know. I think it's the area in which we live. It's very driven. We also have a lot to do with what's going on with our association, and just everyone wants to, be involved, and it's also very easy to commute. We live in an area where there's 4 major highways to get to almost anywhere in the state. So I think that's also one of the other reasons why we get so many people. So that's all I really got for that. I wish I had a better answer, but that's all I got.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Billy. I am jealous. Yes, the Northeast area with the closeness of you all, it's easy to hop on a highway and get to some kind of PD. All right, Peggy, the mic is yours.
I just couldn't pass up this opportunity. Even though I'm retired, I love participating in professional learning and opportunities to connect with other educators. And because I feel so strongly about that, and because it's so important to be able to participate in things that don't cost money, I decided to create a Livebinder that is just filled with opportunities for virtual conferences, webinars, various tools like Plickr and Blab and blogs and all kinds of things, so that you have a starting place to go find where those opportunities are, and then you can pick the one that works best for you. So I'll share that link here in the chat, and I put it in the Livebinder, so you can look at it later and take a look at the amazing possibilities. There are just so many, and it helps to have someone pull them all together, I think. So that's what I've done to share with you. And Kim Thomas and I actually did a webinar to share that with Arizona teachers, because we want them to know about it too.
Thanks, Peggy. All right, let's move on to our third question. And I don't want this to turn into a gripe session, but we've all been there, done that. But I'd like for you to raise your hand, take the mic, and share. Let's try to share more best than worst, but I know we've all had some of the worst experiences also. So let's talk about it. What have been some of our best PD experiences? And then what are those dreaded ones that we just really have to go to that we can't stand? Who'd like to take the mic? Melissa, can you get on the mic and talk about some national meetings that you like? Nikki, it's yours.
Okay, one thing that I want to bring up that I've heard about but haven't attended are the new play dates. Have you heard of those? That type of PD play dates?
Yeah, yes, we've set up a couple here in the New Orleans area, and we keep trying to do more, but we tend to put them off till the summertime.
Right, so I'm really interested in looking into more of that as well, but also I present a lot of PD. And what I really like to try to do is, if I'm presenting about a tech tool or something like that, I like to make sure that I'm not just talking about it, but I'm showing why I'm using the tool to present with, so that I can show the effectiveness of that tool and also let the attendees see it from both the teacher point of view and the student point of view. And so I guess actively involved in actually seeing that tool being used and not just talking about how that tool can be used. And I like attending presentations like that, so that it's not just a pie in the sky concept, but I can actually see it working in real time.
I think that is important. I love doing my virtual PD, but I really, really enjoy getting to see my buddies and my PLN members face to face. So anytime I can go and meet with them, I just really love that. Kim, the mic is yours.
About 5 years ago, I had an urge to have some teachers or people over to my house, and we were just going to talk tech. And I called it a Geek Fest. And I haven't done one in about a year, so it's time for another one. It's just an open invitation. They come to my house. We have breakfast. We may have chili for lunch, whatever. And there's no rules, but we just start sharing. And those have been some of the most remarkable learning for me, because I hear from people in an informal environment. They may be on the couch in the living room. They may be out in front. We come together to eat, and all the tech is put away, and we talk. And from that, Peggy and I did a Geek Fest web show for a while that was just as much fun, asking people just to come in and share. So now that I've talked about it, it's time to arrange for another one. Peggy, I'm putting you on notice. So an informal time to come together, it almost sounds like a play date. I've had administrators show up to student teachers, so something to consider.
I can remember attending your Geek Fest when you were doing the webinars, and I loved it. It was so much fun. I always had a great time. So if you start them up again, let me know.
There you go. We'll blab you in on our next one, okay?
It's great. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I'm glad that not too many people are talking about their worst experiences. I think things in the PD realm have gotten better, or at least those of us in this room know how to go out and get the best PD that we can find. So I know we're kind of preaching to the choir here in this particular room, but I know that I work in a building with a lot of educators who get very upset because they want to get PD, but what's being offered is not what they want. Melissa, take it away.
Hi, I just want to give a shout out to national meetings. I know they're expensive and they take a lot of time because they're usually for multiple days, but they are the most amazing places you can go to meet incredible people and get totally immersed in your subject matter area to the point where you're just bubbling everything that you're learning. The vendor floors are incredible. It's just awesome. I'm a science teacher, so for me, a lot of the times going to NAA or NABT were incredible because I could actually try out labs. I could learn labs that I could sometimes bring back to my. I haven't been able to afford ISTE, sorry. These are back I could actually walk. But when I was first learning how to teach, National Science Teachers Association, NABT, National Association of Biology Teachers, ASCD, just such great minds everywhere. It's awesome. Thank you.
Melissa, for taking the mic. Okay, Nikki, your hand is up, and I think you want to take the mic, and then you'll be followed by Susie.
Okay, great. I was just going to add, too, that one thing that I've seen modeled for me at Hoover High School and that I've continued to do as well is to record the PDs and let the teachers do PD in their own time, in their own place, kind of like Simple K-12 does, or like you can do here with Classroom 2.0 Live, where you could go back and watch the recording later, and then there's usually a little activity after the recorded PD just to show that you watched it and that you participated and showed some knowledge of that PD. So instead of being forced to stay after school or give up the planning time, it's PD on your own time but still provided by the school district for you to do. And I like doing that for my teachers as well. Plus it makes the learning rewindable for my teachers, which is needed a lot of times when you're introducing a new tech, where they can go back and rewind to the parts that maybe they forgot and needed a little reminder.
Susie, quick talk. We're not hearing you. Hopefully Susie can get her mic working right now. We are not, I see that it seems, oh, wait, she's typing. Okay, but let's move on a little bit because we're getting short on time here. This was a question that came up in the brainstorming session preparing for this webinar today. So added it as a question. What part do or should learning styles play in professional development? Anybody like to field that question? Especially those experts in here who are always giving PD. Do you take that into account when you're planning? Steve, you want to add anything to that? All right, Susie, let's try again. It says you wait. Can somebody help Susie out? Susie, well, we're trying to get you set up. I'm going to let Nikki have the mic.
I feel like I'm hogging the mic. But one thing I do with my teachers is I offer, not only when I do the recordings for the PD, then I offer to do small group sessions if they feel like they need some more time or need like one-on-one with me. I do one-on-one with teachers. I also, and I think this is probably the most important, I do co-teaching with the teachers whenever they're going to implement a technology, so they don't feel like they're alone and they're not scared to try the PD because they know that I'm right there, and that if anything hinky goes on with the technology, I can jump right in. And one of the best things that I've ever had a teacher say to me, and actually said to me yesterday, a teacher came in, it's the beginning of the second half of the year, and I had co-taught with her last year, teaching her how to use Google Classroom with her class. And she said, I didn't schedule you to co-teach with me this time because after I did it with you the first part of the year, I feel confident now doing it on my own. And that lets me know that I did a good job as the PD leader because I helped that teacher to feel confident. And another thing, I had a teacher and her class, when I walked in to see how they were doing with the tech and integrating it, they said, Ms. Robertson, look what we did without you. And I was like, yes, that's what I want you to do, is not be afraid to explore, find, and implement and use. And so having that safety net of you there co-teaching is another really important thing, embedded PD.
Thank you, Nikki. All right, Susie, do you want to try one more time? Because we would love to have your voice added to this conversation. We seem to be having technical difficulties. All right, for those of us in the room who offer PD, what do you need to know from teachers you present to? And how do you go about figuring out what their needs are so that you can best meet them? I'm gonna actually call on somebody. I'm gonna be that terrible facilitator that puts somebody on the spot. And I'm gonna go first to Billy, and then I wonder if Carolyn's set up today for being able to talk to us. Okay? Okay, Billy, I'm gonna give you the mic. How do you figure out what PD you're going to give? Because I know you present lots of things.
It depends on what I'm doing. I've done a lot of different things such as Twitter, mystery Skype, global classroom collaboration. So it really depends what I'm doing. I usually survey my audience during the session to see what level they're at. I also work now for Evolving Educators, where we're always sending out surveys to see what level people are at. And you really need to see what your audience is. You can't just do PD based. It's not one size fits all the time.
Carolyn, thank you, Billy. Yay, Carolyn, please take the mic.
I got it. I almost forgot how to turn it on. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we hear you, but you're a little low. Can you turn your volume up maybe a bit?
I will. I'll do that. Is that better? Is that better?
Thank you. Yes, okay. Definitely. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I've been out of the classroom now. Well, this is my fourth winter that I haven't been in the classroom. I did some PD after I left, but so it's pretty hard. But I will tell you, the best thing is that I was always very, very available to my PD, the people in my group, and I would, as you said, I would survey them as we're going along, making sure I met their needs. And usually I tried to structure it so that there was some initial PD that I would give at the beginning of the session. Maybe I had a PowerPoint presentation or something ready, and then a lot of it was hands-on. And so I would then just walk around and help people individually as they needed it. And I found that that was the very best. Plus I did a lot of one-to-one. I would, sometimes when I was not absolutely tied into the lab, I would walk around to the classrooms and I would peek in. I'm not sure whether they always welcomed it, but I would peek in on what they were doing. And if I saw something that was really applicable to integrating technology, I'd put my 2 cents worth in. And that's how it worked a lot. So I really kind of miss it, but it's nice being retired too. And I'm so glad I got a chance to tune into this because I really am starting to be more and more out of the loop. So I'm glad Classroom 2.0 and all of you are there for us. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Carolyn. And I love how, you retired people talk about like you have nothing to do. You're busier now than ever, just like Peggy. And I am going to turn it over to Nikki, and then Nikki will be followed by Steve. Thank you.
So just to piggyback off Billy for a minute there about meeting teachers where they are, that's another thing I like about having the PDs recorded. That way if somebody's advanced or they already know it, they don't have to sit through a PD that they've already mastered. They can go ahead and just zip right to that, I know how to do this, here's my proof. For the people who are like, wait, slow down, then they can slow that video down, or they can schedule with me to have some one-on-one, because a lot of times teachers feel embarrassed when they're in a PD and don't understand, and they're just like the kids. They don't want to raise their hand and say, I don't understand, because they don't want to be seen as stupid or as not understanding anything. And so having those PD sessions recorded and then having offerings for small groups or one-on-one sessions helps teachers again to feel more confident and able to tackle new technologies.
Want me to just jump in? I realize we're ahead on time. I'll be quick. It feels to me like there are some huge parallels, and I'm sorry I dropped off for technical issues, and maybe you've covered this, but there are huge parallels between teacher learning and student learning. And if we really get down to it, what's going to motivate people is a sense that what they're learning actually impacts their ability to survive, either emotionally or professionally. And once you get past survival level, you're going to have intellectual interest, but if you don't feel good or confident, then the core is really to address those sort of deep-seated needs to know that I'm going to be okay and that what I'm learning is actually going to help me. And so Peggy's done this with me before, but for a year I went around and held these sessions around the country where we asked people what their deepest learning experiences were, and then we used the conditions that had precipitated those learning experiences. We built a list of those conditions to build a list of ways in which they could impact students' lives. And it's a great list. It's almost always a very similar list from people because it's from the heart, and it addresses things that are completely unrelated to the kind of standardized testing, conforming, rote memorization types of learning. And you know, for me, it's a reminder that at core, learning should be something that really helps us in our lives. And if you don't touch that in people, then they're not going to fully engage. They'll do what they have to do professionally, but it's not going to really change their lives. I realize I went pretty deep there, but hope that's helpful.
Thank you so much, Steve. You always give us great things to think about. Oops. Thank you, Steve. I just realized I turned my mic off instead of on. You always give us great tidbits to think about, and we are so thankful that you are here with us today. Peggy, do we have time for this last question, or do we need to go into wrap-up?
I think we probably should go into wrap-up since we said it would be an hour, and we're recording from the very beginning today. So let's go ahead and wrap up, and then if people want to continue the conversation, we can continue it on Twitter. How about that?
That sounds awesome. Thank you, everyone who was brave enough to step up and take the mic, and as always, I had fun facilitating.
Thank you so much for doing it, Paula. There is no one who makes people feel so comfortable in these kinds of conversations than you. We appreciate you. Well, we want to tell you we are glad to be back for the new year, and we have 2 shows coming up on this 16th and the 23rd that are not yet finalized yet, but we will be having shows, so we hope you'll come back next week and join us, and we'll definitely tweet about it. And then want to let you know that on January 30th, we're not having a show because we want to be able to participate in the Student Technology Conference and also EduCon virtually that weekend. So the Student Technology Conference is fabulous. Please plan on joining it. It's another conference hosted free and virtual by Steve Hargadon and Lucy Gray, and it's by students for students. And it's all day Saturday, January 30th from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. We've actually gotten some of our presenters by going to that conference and being impressed by the amazing things they're doing and asking them to come and present for us. So I hope you'll take advantage of that. That link is in the Livebinder so you can find out where to go, and you don't have to register, just show up. And Lori, I'm going to turn it back to you to wrap up these closing slides.
Thanks, Peggy. The Learning Revolution Project is Steve Hargadon's latest. He's gathered together all of his PD resources in one place, including the Host Your Own Webinar series, so you can sign up for a Blackboard Collaborate classroom and present your event, as long as you make the event free. When you exit the session, your browser should open a survey, but in the Livebinder, there's a Nominate a Featured Teacher form, so, or you could take this URL as well. We usually have a featured teacher each month that we celebrate. Here's the survey slide. There are 3 ways to get to the survey. One is from the direct link or the chat. Soon that will be in the chat box or in the Livebinder. The tab is in the resource section of the monthly Livebinder. When you do complete the survey, at the bottom you can request a professional development certificate. It now prints with your name on the certificate itself. Make sure though you include a personal email address because schools tend to block this from getting to you. The recordings are on iTunes U. There's a video collection and audio collection. as well as you can get to past recordings with either an RSS feed or the full recording link in the Classroom 2.0 Weebly website. Again, special thanks to everybody here in the room. They were special guests today, to Steve Hargadon, founder of Classroom 2.0, Teacher 2.0, Future of Education and the Learning Revolution, to Blackboard Collaborate for our webinar platform, and to everyone who participated in today's show. Thank you so much for coming.